Here we have our bear class, and here's our constructor. We have the type, the color, the weight, and the favorite food passed in. And then you can see here we are assigning them. And then the favorite food, the way that we're setting this, now you can do this with a function if you wanted to, but or just like a simple if-else statement in here, but we're going to use something new that you guys haven't seen yet. It's called a ternary operator, and I will put in some links in the solution video or in the solution document. You guys can read more about it if you're interested. But yeah, this is called a ternary operator, and the way that it works is so you analyze this first statement. Okay, so this is the condition. So if this condition is true, so I call it an if then else kind of. Yeah, it's kind of like an if then else um, statement, but it's ternary. So if the type starts with Winnie, then you have this question mark, okay, and then after the question mark, you have this, you have what could be the result, which is honey, and then this colon stands for else. So the way that I read this is if this dot type dot starts with Winnie, then honey, else favorite food. So that's how that kind of works. And again, I'm gonna put a link in the solution document, and you guys can read more about it. Okay, moving on. Is aggressive. So is aggressive. We decided that we were not going to pass in. We are just going to we're going to set this internally, and we have to set this last because this is going to depend on the bear type and the bear weight. So the way that we do that is we create this function called set as aggressive. And if you really wanted to, you could probably make this private, but it doesn't matter. Um, so first, what we're doing is we're going to set a Boolean variable called is aggro. Now you're probably wondering what this is. So the way that this works is, well, let's go back and understand what the question is asking us, right? So this is asking us to pretty much go through these conditions, right? We are going to go through the conditions here. So we're going to go through all of these three conditions, right? So that we're actually addressing this first one here. We're saying if it doesn't meet any of these criteria, then we're going to set the regression to be random 50-50, whether they are aggressive or not, right? So that's what this is doing. So random will give you a number between, well, it'll give you a decimal number or a floating point number between 0 and 1. So this is going to give us some weird decimal number, like, I don't know, 0.4565 or something like that, right? So it'll give us this. And then what we're doing is we're taking that and we're rounding it. So this is how we get our 50-50 chance. So if this rounds, right, if we round this to the nearest whole number, this is going to give us a 0, right? Or if, for example, the output is like 0.6732 or whatever, right, this will end up rounding to 1. So 0 or 1, as you might know, is true or false according to the computer. And that's what we're doing with these two uh, not operators. So the first not operator, what it is doing is it is converting it to a Boolean. So we're saying not 0 and not 1, okay? So this actually ends up then becoming, um, this ends up becoming true, and then this ends up becoming false. But this is actually inaccurate, okay? And that's why we have that other not operator, because we have to invert this now, right, to make it more accurate. I mean, technically for this, since we're doing it 50-50 random, you don't really need the second one, but for the sake of doing it quote unquote correctly, and if you're going to apply this type of logic to something else that's not just a random number that's going to be 50-50, um, you are going to want to do the other not, and I will explain why. So the other not, so right now this is what we have, right? So if we were to have this decimal number, we are going to get a 0, and then we're saying, okay, not 0 is now true. But if we had another not to this, right? So we have true now. Now this is going to end up being false, as it should be, right? Because 0, according to a computer, is false. So that's what we're doing. So the first one, so this first exclamation point or not operator converts it to a Boolean, and then the second one inverts it. Okay, and that's the same thing with this. So this will end up being not false, which is then ends up being true. And I am going to I'll go ahead and put this. I'll put a link in for this as well. You guys can read about it and get a better understanding of what it does. But point is, this pretty much satisfies um, this condition here. Okay, the second to last bullet point, the 50-50. Okay, next. So and we're storing this in a variable. We're calling it is aggro. And then what we're doing is now we're going to go through and now we're going to check um, the other conditions, right? So now we are going through and we are checking this first one. Okay, so you have to be very careful. Okay, this one, this condition takes precedence over the second condition. So that's why we have to check it first. Okay, we're going to do this and then else that. Okay, so um, so we're going to check the weight. If it's less than or equal to 700, if it starts with little or baby, then we're going to set aggro as false, right? So now it doesn't matter if the weight, for example, is let's say it is 700, right? It's going to go in here, and if the name is black, it doesn't matter if the name starts with black or not because it's just going to be false and it's going to skip this else if and it's just going to go straight to returning the is aggro, okay? And that's how that works. Otherwise, if it's greater than 700 and the type does not start with little or baby, then what we're going to do is we're going to check this other condition, and now we're checking if it's larger than 1,200, if the weight is larger than 1,200 pounds, and we're checking if the type starts with papa or black. And then if it does, then we're going to set it to true. Otherwise, if neither of these is true, then nothing will happen to this is aggro. And now we're going to keep to our 50-50 um, condition, right? And we're just going to return it if neither of these is true. And that's how that works, okay? So that is the bear class.